What's up, guys? It's Lakeland from the Mileage Mafia, and today we are going to be talking about Max cushion shoes that we're most excited for in 2025. We've made a video on daily trainers already that is already up on our tier list and on our channel, so if you want to watch that, feel free to go ahead. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, it really does do a lot for our self-esteem issue. It really does do a lot for our channel. Without further ado, Evan, let's get into it.
All right, so the first shoe we're going to be talking about today is the Cloudsurfer Max. This shoe here from On Cloud, kind of a training companion to the Cloudsurfer 2 that we were just talking about, and somewhat of the successor to the Cloud Eclipse that On has seen some success with over the past year or two. So it's pretty similar in terms of geometry, foam, all that stuff to the Cloudsurfer, just as you can see from this picture, a good amount thicker and kind of trying to address that max stack or at least higher stack, but while still being within the sort of confines of a daily trainer sort of market that's become pretty big. So I know Lakeland recently got the Cloud Eclipse, the first generation, and has some more experience with On Cloud. So Lakeland, how do you see this shoe coming into 2025?
So I've only done two runs so far in my Cloud Eclipse, and I really do feel like the geometry of the shoe helps a lot. Well, I'm wearing it right now, but I believe there's a speed board in this one. Is that correct, Evan?
Yeah, but it's if you look along the bottom, it's actually right there on the bottom. Just that plastic shank looking thing is the speed board. And so instead of putting it up closer to the foot where you'd kind of feel it as a propulsive rocker, they added it at the bottom to allow it to kind of more easily stabilize the higher amount of foam that they put in there and create more of a stability feeling versus a propulsive one. So if you turn the shoe so we can see the sole, they'll be able to actually see the speed board. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. One of the issues I had with the Cloud Monster before was that it was just a really stiff feeling shoe, and I don't feel that way with this shoe. I've really enjoyed the runs that I've done in it so far. I do find that one issue that I have is right at the bottom. There was a run I did where a rock got stuck in the right and the left shoe. So just another thing that I think for brands to keep working on is to get the grooves to be less pronounced. So then for people who do all-terrain running, I'll do a little bit on a road, a little bit on gravel, and it's a little annoying to get the gravel stuck in there. But besides that, I'm really pleased with how the shoe is working so far. And I think a second edition will be great. It doesn't look like they're going to change a whole lot, so just some more cool, fun colorways would really be nice to see.
Yeah, so what tier you think you put this in terms of excitement?
I think for me, it's probably a high B tier.
Maybe
It's
above the
that,
Cloud Surfer?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and DJ, you have some experience with the Cloud Monster. I know you used to run an On Clouds back in the day, but haven't done so as much recently. Is this a shoe you'd maybe consider trying in 2025?
Yeah, I feel like this Max trainer kind of deal here is actually pretty well suited to what On does. You know, with that new rocker, the not rocker, the new geometry of the holes at the bottom of the shoe. Running with the one that I had, I wasn't as much of a fan. It felt too aggressive. But if they, build up that foam a bit more, if they move the speed board down, I feel like it could actually lend itself pretty well. Um, it was really cool early on running it ons because they were a lighter proposition with less foam, but they still had that bounciness. But obviously, like the shoe game is kind of caught up, and foams are just better now than they were when On had first started. Um, but I think usually with ons, I would end up putting them in C. In this case, I'm going to be a little more helpful and actually lean B here. I feel like this would work. It's if it's a decent foam and you have more of it and you're less dependent on the holes there, then I actually think it would work pretty well. So I'd go low B. So yeah, it stays in the B tier for me, which is pretty good considering it's an on shoe.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and agree. I think for this shoe in particular, I wore a lot of my first pair of the Cloud Eclipse. I used it for the entire training build, everything from easy runs to workouts for my 70.3 earlier this year. So put about 300 miles in my pair, and it held up well. A little bit of the squeaking issue, similar to the Cloudsurfer, just due to the way that these pods kind of wear asymmetrically based off of your foot strike pattern. But yeah, I think B is a good place for it. So I guess that's where we're gonna put that one. And moving on now, this is a very controversial shoe, the Pegasus Premium. It's got a lot of interesting things about it. First of all, and most notable is this full length air zoom pod, which is something Nike's maybe tried before, but not in a performance oriented running shoe. So I guess the idea would be that this is kind of a stiffness element that they're going to be putting between what I would imagine is maybe two slabs of Zoom X, maybe one slab Zoom X, and then some React X below it for durability purposes. But main concerns with this one are going to be, first of all, need to see kind of how this pans out in terms of the air zoom, whether that actually is a reasonable substitute for a carbon fiber plate. And then the second thing is the weight. Nike's been dropping some heavy trainers recently. And with this thing probably being super stack, maybe north of 43, 44 millimeter stack height in the heel, I could see this thing being well over 300 grams. And that might be a little bit too much for me. So in terms of excitability for this one, I'm going to be putting it down with the Vomero in the kind of C tier. Honestly, to me, these shoes are, I kind of see them the same way. They probably fit the same purpose. They're both going to be heavy, a lot of Zoom X. The only real difference is this full length pod, which could make the shoe better, could make the shoe worse. It's really just going to be kind of a matter of how it pans out for individuals. So what do you guys think?
Man, I want to tear this shoe a new one. Dude, this thing is stupid. There's no way that this is going to be a good shoe. If you didn't watch our last video, A, I recommend you do. And B, we have doubt in these Nike trainers. They're heavy. They're not as fun to run in. Like you should, they're upper tier racing shoes, phenomenal. But their trainers just don't do it. It feels like a gimmick. There's no way, like this is something I'd expect to see a middle schooler wearing because it looks cool. I hope I eat my words. I hope I'm wrong. If this thing's awesome, then congratulations to Nike. I want them to make better daily trainers. There's just no way. I was never a huge fan of the AirPod works really well actually in their racing shoes. In the Alpha Fly. It's phenomenal. But when you put it in the Pegasus, it makes it too aggressive. And so and it stiffens it up, and you're right. The weight's going to be probably ridiculous on this one. This to me is a D tier. If this is good, I'll be amazed. Like there's no way. So I'm fully fledged hating on this. I hope they prove me wrong because that would be a great step in a right direction for Nike to dominate all aspects of running shoes. But I have very little faith in this one.
I don't know. I'm super skeptical about this shoe. I think I'd shoes with a full AirPod throughout it, and it seems like they're bringing back something that they used to use and now marketing it for performance. I think it's like the Air Max 2015 had this, and it was like one of the like coolest shoes that people would wear walking around 10 years ago, and now they're bringing it back but marketing it for running. I'm a DJ on this one. I would love to be proved wrong, but I just think it's one of those things where I don't know that people who run a lot are really going to be gravitating towards the shoe, but I think people who want to be seen as someone who spends a lot of money on a shoe may be buying this type of shoe. I'll stick with D.
And
Yeah,
Evan, before we move on, I do have a quick question. Apologies to interrupt. Do you know a price on this by any chance? I know that there's some early reviews out on it already. I don't know if they've announced a price.
Is it
yeah.
220?
I don't think 220. 220 is for some of the new On shoes. I think probably I would expect it to be in the 180 to 200 range. Um, we're not really too sure what Nike's next generation pricing is going to look like. They've tended to increase the price kind of $10 to $15 for most of their higher end shoes per generation. If you look at something like the Vaporfly Alpha Fly, it's been creeping upward. But something like this, probably closer to the pricing of the Invincible. But again with their new kind of modeling this as the premium version of the shoe when they're going to now have the Pegasus Plus, and the Pegasus Premium. The Pegasus comes in at like 140, 150. The Pegasus Plus comes in at 180. So actually, come to think of it, this one's probably going to be 200 if I had to guess, but I haven't actually seen any confirmed. There might be some reviewers who have gotten pricing details, but it's probably actually going to be closer to 200 than 180 just based off of that trend. So, with that price in mind, I think I am also comfortable leaving it in the D tier, our first member, and moving on to a shoe with a little bit more hope behind it. This is the Hyperion Max 2, kind of a cross between a Max Stack and a Super Trainer. So, we just sort of put it in this category with these other shoes. It is the successor to a very popular and very successful shoe. Actually, no, apologies. This is the Hyperion Max 3. The Max 2 is already out, and it's pretty well beloved. It's got a plate in it, a plastic plate. It's got some good foam. It's got that upper that Brooks are known for. Their Hyperion series in particular is known for having very comfortable uppers. For me personally, they're some of my favorite, from shoes like the Hyperion Tempo to the Hyperion 2, which I've tried. Very good stuff. So I think this is going to be a comfortable shoe. I think next generation Brooks foam that they're kind of revamping. You can see down here we have the new generation Brooks race shoe, which reviewers are saying is kind of Brooks having finally nailed a race option. So look out for that in a video coming soon. But in terms of this shoe, not 100% certain on whether it has the new foam or not. But if they kind of just make incremental improvements over the Hyperion Max 2, I think this is going to be a very popular shoe for people from a variety of different skill levels. And I think it's just going to be kind of another nice addition to what will likely be a reasonably priced, highly effective, very comfortable, and kind of approachable start to the whole kind of super trainer max stack cross, especially if they continue with the trend of increasing the stack height with each generation of this shoe. So, do either of you guys have any strong feelings about this one?
Well, I want to
Um,
push back in calling this a max cushion shoe if there is a plate in it. I'm
It's
gonna,
plastic. It's a plastic plate.
okay, which I'll accept, but agree to disagree. Go on, DJ. Sorry.
yeah, honestly, even I think at this point in the video, it's worth bringing up. I don't find myself gravitating to too many of the Max trainers like this, the Max stacks. So it does take a lot for me to get excited about a shoe. Now, of course, in the previous video, I was talking about how exciting some of these Brooks shoes are. You know, in the fact that they can go and you know what they're going to do and they're going to be great, right? It's not going to be, it probably won't be the best shoe you've ever worn in your life, but it's not going to be bad, and it will most likely it'll probably be very good. Um, and so for this one, while I probably won't be going to reach for it per se, if it has great reviews, you might find me going for this one. Um, if I were to go for a max trainer, max stack, it would probably be this or an Invincible. So I would go low A, high B for this one, honestly. I really do believe in what Brooks has been doing. It's kind of been an interesting shift for me. It's a little wishy-washy on my end, but I feel like I shouldn't make too much of the decision. I wouldn't mind Lakeland, Evan, one of you guys making that decision on this because I feel like you do appreciate the max stacks a bit more. But Brooks does what they do, and they do it well. I have no doubt this is going to be a good shoe.
I think that the concept of it is really cool. I think Brooks is, like we talked in the last video, we really think Brooks is doing a lot of the right things in getting the pieces together and being a innovative brand. I just think that based on the photo that we have, that the Glycerin Max looks way cooler, and that I'd way rather try the Glycerin Max. So I kind of want to say this would be upper C, lower B for me. Um, just because the Glycerin Max is on my mind so much of the time. I'm thinking about it all day. I really want to try that Brooks shoe first, just because it looks way cooler and because people have said good things about that. So, if this one got some good reviews, I would be interested in trying it as well if I liked the Glycerin Max.
Yeah, and I think the comparison to the Glycerin Max is an important one. That's definitely a more approachable, like you said, probably would fit better in this list in terms of max stack trainers, more cushioned. If there was a Glycerin Max 2 coming out, that would certainly be on our list here. But the Glycerin Max being a fairly recent shoe, we couldn't justify putting it on our 2025 list. So I'm actually okay. If the problem is, I would be okay putting it in C, but the problem is, if I compare it to these other shoes, I'm definitely more excited about this than the Cloudsurfer 2. So I'm going to be leaving it in B since neither of you seem to feel super strongly. I know DJ mentioned B, so we're just going to leave it kind of in upper to mid B, and I think that's a pretty good place for it. So moving on, another On Cloud shoe, pretty representative list in terms of On Cloud here. This is going to be the new Cloudmonster Max, or something along those lines in terms of the name. And it honestly looks really cool. I know Lakeland mentioned he's not the biggest fan of the Cloud Monster, a little bit too stiff and aggressive feeling. It almost feels like it's trying to feel fast without actually having the fundamental components to back that up. You know, they're kind of cheating a little with the speed board right under your foot. They don't have too much stack, and the pods are kind of a gimmick. So it's never been a shoe I'm very interested in, but you can see they've really shrunk down the pods to a very manageable level. The shoe looks very kind of premium, obviously, as On Cloud is known for. And they're moving in a similar direction with this one as they have in, for example, the Cloudboom Strike. And if you look here, the Cloudboom Echo 4, this is a prototype that was seen. This is another racing shoe. You can see they've essentially eliminated the pods entirely, and the geometry is kind of converging on this very streamlined, very sleek, and I'll admit, very cool looking kind of design. So from a design perspective, very excited about this shoe. Based off of my history with On Cloud shoes, the durability is probably not going to be great, especially because this is probably their Helion kind of Piba foam, which is notoriously not the most durable of the Piba foams out there. So for this one, given that its price point is likely to be $220, I'm not actually that excited about the shoe from a practical perspective. So I'm going to put it down here with the Vomero because it's just unlikely to be a shoe that I even buy. But in terms of exciting me about the direction On Cloud is going as a whole, I would put the shoe pretty high up there, but that's not really what we're evaluating off of today. So either of you guys have strong feelings on this one?
I'm gonna echo those sentiments. I really like that this is a way different shoe than the previous versions of the Cloud Monster. Just looking at the pods in it, the holes in them, they look a lot more like not even holes, like they're, I guess they are, but the geometry of them looks really cool. It looks different. The other ones were very like stiff, rigid squares on the Cloud Monster, so I think this could upset some people because I do think that the Cloud Monster was liked by some people who do prefer a very stiff feeling shoe. I'm just not one of those people. I'd rather have something less stiff than that. So I think it's not really practical for me to get. I'm not going to spend $220 on something like that unless it was like a super blast where everyone is chiming in how great it is. It's just not, it's not worth it in my mind. But in terms of excitement of the future of the brand, I think this does that. But we're not grading shoes on that. So, DJ, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I would like to ask Evan, what is the price of the Super Blast again?
Super Blast, it actually came out at 220 originally for the Super Blast 1, but then ever since then it's been 200 since a few months after that. So 200 for the Super Blast 1 and now 200 for the Super Blast 2.
And I think you've got to think about that when you're looking at a shoe like this. You know, $200 for what is probably the best max stack, right? Because you can still roll in that. You guys have raved about it, and so has pretty much everybody else. Um, and you get to pay $20 more for a shoe that, yeah, I think this looks cooler than that, but is unproven. I was not a huge fan of the Cloud Monster. You know, it's like you said, like when some people are. My dad actually loves that shoe. He runs in it, and it works really well for him. But it's not for me. But honestly, what's interesting, this is going to get a C for me as well. But this could be a turning point right here for On. You can see they are really stepping away from what they did for the previous Cloud Monsters. This could be big for them. If this shoe works and rolls well and does what a Max trainer should, then who knows? The next one, you look at it and you go, that's a B or an A. I mean, think about what this version did if it ends up being great. Um, Again, go prove it. It's the same with the Nike shoes. I'm not going to rank a Nike Daily Trainer high unless they've done it well recently. And On for me, this shoe hasn't done it recently, so it'll get a C. Hopefully they change my mind because they're trying some new stuff here. So I'm looking forward to what this could do. I will not be grabbing this because there's too many better value propositions.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's an interesting point in terms of kind of the inertia that a shoe company has in terms of the excitement, the trust from the consumer. If you mess up a like just for one generation, even, it could make people pretty skeptical. Like something like the Endorphin Speed, it's been a fan favorite since really probably since its inception, but definitely since the Endorphin Speed 2 was hailed as like the OG do it all super trainer. And then they kind of slowly drifted away from that, introduced the Endorphin Elite to the line, which kind of shifted things around. And now with this next generation of the Endorphin Speed that we're probably going to be talking about in the next video, they're kind of returning back to basics and hopefully trying to get back some of that consumer trust and hit that original demographic again. So yeah, I mean, I think Lakeland may actually have a video essay coming, or maybe we'll do a video about it, about just the story of On and kind of how they've. I mean, yeah, if you want to just speak a bit about that.
I think we'll have a video coming out about that. They really did. It's really an amazing story about On breaking into a super saturated market and something that people thought was impossible. Nike, Adidas, um, and the other big hitters were really dominating the marketplace. And this small Swiss company that started out by using a hose and cutting it up and putting it under an upper of a shoe was able to really take the world by storm, get some crazy endorsements like Roger Federer, and started making these pro running teams that are getting people to the Olympics. So it's really an inspiring story, kind of an underdog story, but at the same time, they've been able to brand themselves as a premium brand, and it's just fascinating what they've done. So there's a whole nother video in that, but really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and what I like about On, and I haven't been the biggest fan outside of the Cloud Eclipse and a little bit of the Cloudsurfer. I haven't been the biggest fan of On, but what I do appreciate is that they've experienced this massive commercial success in the kind of casual wear market, and now they're pivoting that into development of some pretty cool high tech shoes that I think we're going to be seeing coming out of the pipeline over the next few years. So back to a brand that has been suffering on our list a little bit, Nike. This is the next generation of the Invincible. Generations 1 and 2 were widely acclaimed. Generation 3, a little more controversial. The upper changed, maybe, or maybe you may have not had some issues with the heel slip for different people. But this has been the prototype that's kind of been floating around. Now there are rumors, though, that Nike is consolidating their shoe lines and that the Invincible is going to die and instead be incorporated as the premium version of or maybe the plus version of the Vomero. So we're seeing that probably going to be taking place. There's going to be a Vomero Premium, a Vomero Plus, and then the Vomero, similar to how the Pegasus is kind of structured, with this being the premium. So while this shoe may not come out as the Invincible, a similar shoe is likely to come out as part of the Vomero line. So this shoe, I'm pretty excited about it. The upper looks much more similar to the 1 and 2. I will say the midsole geometry and kind of the exterior looks much more similar to the 3, which I think is good. I think likely it's a little heavier or maybe the same weight. Doesn't look like they've cut much weight for sure. I don't know about the stack height. It looks as if it may have gotten a little bit higher. I imagine the drop has stayed the same. So this is definitely a shoe that when it comes out in whatever form they kind of brand it under, I'll be trying this one. I've been a big fan of the Invincible as a trainer. So yeah, for this one, I'm going to have to put it in kind of low A tier just because I've got such a good history with this shoe, kind of to call back on the inertia we were talking about before. So anyone else want to chime in?
I'll go ahead. I loved the Invincible line. I had probably three pairs or maybe even more of the Invincible one, and I really was blown away by the feeling that your legs are just getting saved and the miles just felt easy in them. I really like the shoe for if you have a slower, easy day. And I mean, a regular easy day is fine in them too, but really, I would just get so many miles on them. I would run them with into like the 500s for the mileage on them. So I really appreciated the durability of them. They're Nike shoes, so you just wait a little bit. They're probably going to go on sale. They're going to make a lot of colorways, some good, some horrendous, some really cool. So I'm definitely mid A tier on this. I think the Invincible 3 was pretty good, so I really I'm I'm really wanting it to stay in the A tier. Hopefully DJ doesn't say something like D and bring us down, but um sorry to probe you DJ like that, but I think this is a shoe that Nike I think this is probably, if I had to guess, an answer to Hoka's lineup and people switching a couple of years ago to a thicker shoe. And I think Nike did a great job in their response in making a soft, thick shoe. And I've really enjoyed running in it.
Yeah, if they change the name from Invincible to Vomero Plus, then this goes in D tier for me.
That's facts. That's facts. I was gonna say that too. Invincible sounds way cooler than Vomero Plus. I'm not
Yeah.
running in no Voms.
Yeah. No, but on a more serious note, I'm actually looking forward to this. This is, like I said previously, the Cloud Monster hadn't proved it to me, so I can't give it a high score. This has proved it to me. The Invincible one was great. It was a phenomenal shoe to throw on for 4 to 5 miles easy. A double, just whatever. I got to do it slow. That's the perfect shoe. And this was earlier on before there was, max stacks everywhere. I feel like this is one of the first that really did it, and it worked. It worked really well. It was always comfortable to run in. It's one of the few that I've tried of the max stack. I really think this is my favorite. And so since Nike has proved to me that they can make this shoe well, maybe it's been it's been a generation with the heel slippage issue. And I tried the one. If they can kind of get back to what the one did, then yeah, this is something I will probably go pick up when it's on sale, because I don't really, I have the Glycerin Max. I'd love to compare it to something like this. So I think I'll be putting it in low A tier. Yeah, I'm going to keep it there. The Nike hatred ends right here. I am excited for this.
Yeah, so it's not brand bias. We kind of expect high things from Nike because they have lines. I mean, if we were ranking, I haven't actually seen any leaks of like next generation Alpha Fly or Vaporfly, but I mean those would probably be like, A or S tier just because Nike is continuously innovating on those lines. Maybe a slight misstep with some aspects of the Vaporfly 3 depending on who you ask, but yeah, definitely. I think this is kind of Nike's shining star in terms of daily trainers. And I mean, people are going to like the Vomero, people are going to like the Premium, I'm sure, but just not for us. So, with that being said, I think that's all the shoes we're going to get through ranking today. This has been our kind of max stack rank list to go alongside our daily trainers. Next up, we're going to be doing super trainers, so you can kind of see a few of them along the bottom. And then our series finale is going to be the race shoes. So, yeah, hopefully going to get those out a little bit on a faster turnaround schedule than this most recent one. And to address some of the issues we saw in the comments regarding the audio quality, hopefully some of that's been resolved. We're trying out a new platform. So now we're going to get some closing words from Lakeland.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in today. We really hope that you liked the video. We appreciate the comments, good or bad. We've invested in better audio solutions, so we hope that you guys enjoy the product. We hope that you guys are able to go and get some of these shoes. Let us know what you think. If you're thinking that you're more excited about a shoe that we rated low, let us know. Like, we'd really be interested in what you guys have to say. So thank you guys for watching, and please tune in again. Like, comment, subscribe.